I didn't know how to tune or anything, and really didn't know how to play at all. And Wayne showed me how to play Batman, the theme from Batman.
Well, I think we originally started out, you know, under the guise and inspiration of the punk rock credo that you don't actually have to have any talent.
I think when he saw The Who, maybe 1970, when maybe 75, when him and Mark saw The Who in Oklahoma City, I think he knew then for sure that he was going to head that direction.
We started to appreciate people that did have actual skill and talent, even though we never seemed to be able to acquire much of it ourselves.
You know, later I found out that they had talked amongst themselves that, well, he's really not very good, and they, which was true, but they looked at each other and said, well, we're not very good either.
My brother went up and asked him, or asked Michael's brother if he played an instrument, and Michael lied and said, yeah, he plays bass. But none of us could play.
It was better to be on the road, because when you came home, was there enough money for cigarettes? Was there enough money for macaroni and cheese? Were you going to have to skip a couple of days?
If they had to starve, they would starve. If they had to do without eating, they'd go without eating. One time Wayne went a whole week without eating, just to see what it was like. He went a whole week without eating food.
Yeah, I mean, we lived, I mean, as poor as you can be. I mean, it was me and Michael and Jonathan all living in one side of a duplex, and where we had all our equipment there. That's where we would practice, and we would, you know, we would go and give blood.
Well, there's a good chance that you might get set on fire, or you might get fireworks blown up at you.
Personally think, and I don't have really any evidence of this, you'd have to ask other people, but I think some of our fame and respect or whatever you want to call it stem from our days of playing with the Butthole Surfers.
Big light thing fell over on top of Michael. It was, you know, you could get hurt.
Me and Danny were right backstage taking pictures, and I was like, damn, get ready to get out of here if it gets any worse. I mean, it was on the verge of being a, you know, 200 people dying club in Norman.
I mean, we were poor, we were at our very poorest at the end of '89, 1990, and at probably our poorest day that we had, Warner Brothers called us, and we assumed that there was an utter joke, that it must be someone that we know because they know in what sad condition we were in. And Warner Brothers called, and within a week we were talking about a contract.
I remember us sitting back there one day, and they were like, what are we going to do, you know? So they're like, well, we'll get Scott to call Warner Brothers and tell them that we want to talk to the person that works with Jane's addiction right now, just as a joke.
We'd call up Warner Brothers and pretend like we were Perry Farrell. Jonathan would do this mostly, but Jonathan would call him and be like, hey, this is Perry Farrell. We want to talk to our A&R person right now, you know? And they would just hang up. They'd just hang up at the phone. They'd figure out, yeah, hey, it's not Perry Farrell calling, right? So one day, we're in the duplex, we're on the other side, they were practicing or something, the phone starts ringing. Pick it up, and it's a woman named Tony, who was an assistant to an A&R person, calling to say that an A&R person wanted to come see the Lips. Well, Jonathan picks up the phone, hears that it's someone from Warner Brothers, and he just hangs it up, right? Because he's afraid they're like coming to yell at us.
Well, before then, I worked at Long John Silver's. I worked at Long John Silver's. I started there in 1977, and I'm 39 years old, so I think I worked there for about 11 years. Well, once we got signed to Warner Brothers, we really, it wasn't that as though, you know, our lives had changed dramatically, but it did ease up here and there.
And when Jonathan was in the band, I think that he and Wayne would both contribute to things that were going on. You know, Jonathan had a way of, you know, it was sort of like he and Wayne both wanted to be chiefs. Neither one of them wanted to compromise.
The Flaming Lips were doing the demos for what became the Hit to Death and the Future Head record in like the fall of '91. And it's funny because by that time they were like, the Flaming Lips were my favorite band.
Stephen seemed to have some sort of, he liked Wayne and wanted to be part of things and wanted to work with him. And I think that they have really gotten to where they work really well together.
Now with someone like Stephen, there really is just no restrictions at all. I mean, there's just nothing musically that we can't attempt. It doesn't mean that it all works or is all worth hearing.
Stephen always has a plan of how to, you know, he can play the things that Wayne can't play. Stephen can just play anything. He can play guitar better than anybody. He can play piano. He can play drums better than, you know. Show me a drummer, a living drummer that's better than him.
If me and Michael would have realized how untalented we were compared to how talented Stephen and Ronald were, I think initially we would have thought it was a bad idea because we wouldn't have known how to keep up with them. But I don't think any of us realized how good they were until we got in there and started doing stuff.
Being able to physically play an instrument isn't a problem anymore because Stephen can play it. He can come up with ideas, he can play ideas. You know, what more do you want?
I got my first drum set when I was about 7. And I started playing with my dad's polka band when I was about 10. And when I was about 12, I started picking up the keyboards. And like from 12 to 14, I was just, every day I would come home from school and just practice the keyboards. 6-7 hours a day, literally. And by the time I was 15, I was playing with my dad, like honky-tonk piano kind of stuff and country western band.
do that again. Steven, check this out. It's cool. It's kind of weird.
Take this, brother. May it serve you well.
I tell you what, this one was good. If y'all don't publicize this, I promise I'll get a paper out and, well, this is church groping. Well, that's another story. After I get my teeth fixed and all. Uh-oh. Is this an air injection?
It's the EMT 251 digital reverberation system.
When we went in to do Clouds Taste Metallic, we just really sort of set it up the way we did our other record, where we'd book 6 or 7 weeks in the studio and go in there and be armed with 3 or 4 songs and then make up a bunch while we're there. But we weren't really all that ready to make Clouds Taste Metallic. I mean, we weren't really ready to make any of them. We're never ready. We're always doing the homework the night before it's due, you know?
I mean, we put it out and, you know, basically worked it for, you know, a year and a half, it seems like almost, before it actually was played on the radio a bunch and people said, oh, wow, that's a funny song.
But you don't use butter.
You know, we didn't ever have these overwhelming expectations that just because people like You Don't Use Jelly that it would just automatically turn into this this fan base that would buy everything that we did.
You heard that little roll that happens right before it?
Sort of, yeah.
At the end of that roll, that's when the space slows down just a bit. So it's like 1, 2. We recorded When You Smile just as it was. And then we decided to try it with a click track, and we recorded with a click track, and that just did not work at all. So we went back and recorded again without a click track, and it was so much better to us, but it was still like it would drag and speed up and slow down, but that just worked better for us.
It's like I never had to see it in your eyes or feel it. I could tell when you smile.
I think we were starting to do things like When You Smile that were really could be potentially embarrassing, and like I said, Evil Will Prevail and stuff like that that were really just sort of the way we felt, that if people thought they were silly or whatever, it would really, we just have to say, well, that's how we are. We're silly fools.
So he decides he's going to go to the zoo and let all the animals out. It's Christmas. He's going to do them a favor. So he gets there, he's going to let the animals out. He goes to do it. And they're like, buddy, we're not leaving.
That's where the story, the fictionalized part of the story sort of takes over, because the animals actually sort of talk to him and say, look, buddy, you know, we don't really want to be let out. It's fucking cold outside. So they try to convince him. It's like, hey, buddy, look, go do your good deed somewhere else. thanks, so thanks, but no thanks. And then he's left there. Well, you worked with us here.
I'm looking for another animal.
What about a cheetah? So, what we have, and we'll play it for him real quick here. How's it go? Come on. There was a night in snow. It was Christmas.
I've always said I'd love to come up with a song that's as endearing as Happy Birthday, you know. It's just down to, like, you know, 4 basic elements. And there's a reason people like it, they can sing it, and they can remember the fucking words. You know, you get it. But simple stuff is hard to do.
One, 2, 3, 4.
And it seemed to cause a chain reaction.
I want to do this stuff. I want to present, you know, new ideas and new looking things and new sounding things and all that. And
whatever happened worked for us. And even like when Ronald split, I think that people thought, oh no, what are they going to do? And really, just a couple of weeks after that happened, we were like, well, let's just start doing something else. And
You know, the limitless amount of ideas, you know, I mean, you just constantly with 40 cars, you know, and the cassettes for the cars, or 40 boom boxes, or a 4 CD set you're supposed to play all at once.
I mean, it seems like we've moved in a nice sort of way of carrying the old with us and incorporating just enough new that you could say, oh, I like the Lips and I like what they do now, even though I may not understand everything they do, especially when we're doing stuff like the parking lot stuff.
Were you scared that first showdown in Austin last year?
You're fucking A, I was. Not as scared as I was when we did that parking lot experiment down there, though. Now, I think that was the ultimate, you know, go out there and take your beating if you're going to get a beating that I've really ever experienced. I mean, once we had got that parking lot full of a couple thousand people, it sort of seemed like, yeah, if I didn't deliver the goods and make something happen that, well, you know, hell, I thought someone might get run over.
Being in a rock and roll band and releasing albums isn't just art, it's also entertainment, in the sense that, well, sometimes it's fun or fine if someone just points at you and laughs.
It is scary, and, you know, you don't know if people are going to accept it or not, but, you know, at the end of the day, it is just music and being in a band and art and stuff. It's pretty harmless, really. So what we've done is we've made 40 tapes that all sort of work on their own sort of logic. But what we do is we give everybody a tape and everybody a boombox. And I yell at them and I say 1, 2, 3, go, and everybody starts them at the same time. And then everybody's turned down. And then at certain times we tell them to turn up and turn down. And what we've tried to do is sort of create this kind of, I don't know, kind of a tape deck, sort of interactive tape deck concert performance.
I'm sure Scott thought Wayne was fucking crazy at first, and Wayne persuaded him as usual. And
when the whole 4 CD thing came about, you know, it really didn't start off as 4 CDs. I think he was looking at it like we could do it with 100 CDs or 10 CDs even, and he felt like that, you know, and I don't know if he'd remember it that way now, but I remember him coming to me and talking about those things and being like, well, why don't we do it with 10 CDs, and thinking that was a reasonable idea.
We'd kind of been doing the parking lot stuff, you know, for a little while. So we, you know, come up with music for that, and that was always a big process, you know, come up with a lot of different music. Like an emotional feeling you'll get sometimes, I've tried to say, how can you make that, how can you turn that into music that makes you feel that way? And that's an interesting thing to try to do sometimes. But
the last few years have been pretty eventful for us with, you know, a lot of these songs remind me of Wayne's dad being sick.
Revealing more about our inner lives than just, you know, the usual, you know, zap guns, you know, blasted the Martian.
He has more to say now. The lyrics are less sort of just because they sound good together, and they're more because of, yeah, they seem to mean more to him now, I think.
There's certain songs I hear and I always get the same emotional response from them every time, you know. And that's a cool thing to be able to do that.
Is it overwhelming to use a crane to crush a fly? It's a good time for Superman to lift the sun into the sky.
Since we've been making videos, I don't know, we've probably, how many do you think we've done?
8.
Yeah? I think we...
I don't know.
It seems like we've done it. We've done so many of them. It just sort of seems like it was a way to gain, I don't know, gain some experience and do something that we're interested in anyway. When we started to do the last couple of records, we just totally threw that away. We didn't really consider whether we could play it live or whether it could really ever be played again. We just sort of concentrated on doing the recordings and just really doing whatever we wanted to do to the songs in the recording process. I didn't even give it much thought. It just occurred to me in a flash. I said, well, why don't we just carry a tape and we'll do some big video presentation behind us while this tape plays, and we'll sing and play guitars and all that junk sort of in front of it, and we'll just do that.
People don't say it has to be a certain way, you know, it's a rock and roll band, so you should just do, in this way we can still do the shows with just the 3 of us, really, instead of having to get a bunch of other people involved, you know. But I really don't miss it at all. I mean, I'm sure we're gonna get to a point where we're gonna have live drums in our shows again or something, but yeah, people ask me that all the time, but I don't miss it right now, because this is still a new enough thing.
I think initially, we didn't even know if people would like it or accept it, or if it was any good, or if we should try something else besides this. But, you know, we played a couple of shows, and people seemed to like it, and it seemed to work.
Well, it's not literally an 80-piece orchestra, but it sounds like one.
Yeah, I definitely think he's a workaholic. It's actually, Michelle and I were talking about that, is that, yeah, I was theorizing that Wayne doesn't actually have any personal relationships, any friends that are just friends. If anybody's that, it would probably be me. I'd be the closest thing to that.
There for a few years, it was just impossible to get him to do anything that wasn't band oriented. You know, if we went anywhere, it was because the band was playing. If we did anything, it was, he just couldn't, you know, he would feel uncomfortable. He would feel like he should be doing something else. He should be working on something. He has this work ethic that is his greatest asset, and also his, you know, his demon to battle sometimes, you know, because he just won't, he's a workaholic pretty much.
You can't see
He wanted people to see that he's just like them. He just happens to play guitar and write songs, you know. That's what he does, and he doesn't work any harder than a lot of other people do at their jobs, you know. And he'd be the first to say that.
I get up and I start working on shit, and I hope something good comes of it. And if it comes in 20 minutes, fine. But if it comes in 20 weeks, well, that's fine too.
But he'll trick you like that too. He'll make you think that you're going out to eat, or come over for some coffee. Next thing you know, you're back in the room recording something, you know, working on one of his ideas or something, which is fine, you know.
I think the whole idea of we're not going to let anything stop us. We're not going to let a lack of talent. We're not going to let lack of money. We're not going to let lack of resources. We're just going to find a way to do what we want to do. And I think 20 years later, we're still living that.
to love.